Hello, my name is Jennifer Hyman. I'm taking a class called Structural Barriers and the Pursuit of Equity at Truro Law Center located in Central Islip, New York. This week we talked about homelessness, an issue that is very near to me. New York City, the place where I was raised, has a shelter system unlike anything in the country, but we are still far from affirming housing as a human right. I want to discuss the issue. Now, the professor proposed that we compare the need to shelter for the to the need for emergency health care. As a socialist and woman of color, someone who is deeply and daily affected by public policy and strives to make that policy more equitable given our country's history, I must say that we need more than a social safety net for emergencies. We need a system of social support backed by our collective labor. Homelessness and poor health have some of the same root causes, which may include poor quality employment, that is, little income and healthcare coverage, a poor family support structure, or chemical dependency. Yet federal policy doesn't attend to one of these political issues, homelessness. For health, federal law guarantees that every person has access to emergency medical care and that no one will be turned away from a hospital when they seek treatment for their physical or mental health. Yet for homelessness, a person has no recourse other than to sleep on the street if they lose access to housing. It is astute to compare the need for shelter to the need for emergency medical care, but what is evident when one reflects on the solution is that it generates new problems without rooting out the problem altogether. In addition to the modest, reasonable claim that the need for shelter is like the need for medical care, I argue that what we need is deeply affordable low income housing and universal health care. The reasons that it's profoundly accurate to compare the need for shelter to the need for emergency medical care are that homelessness is a legitimate matter of public concern. Government should protect people within its territorial borders, and because of normative political concerns about how people ought to be treated. Homelessness interferes with personal and social stability. It could be classed as a public health concern. Like work, education, physical and mental health, being housed is a social good. The government can take up a role in preserving this social good. Government is more legitimate when those who are governed are able to survive. Furthermore, housing is a civil and human right, not only according to some countries' constitutions, like Canada, but according to norms such as international human rights law. The need for shelter and the need for medical care are analogous, so there should be something comparable to the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, EMTALA, for people who need emergency shelter. However, shelters have many shortcomings that need to be identified. In shelters, there's no privacy. Sometimes there's violence and theft of belongings. There's overcrowding and the potential for contagious diseases to spread, which is particularly relevant living through a pandemic as we are today. Shelters may easily fall below the Callahan standards of hygiene and safety, a landmark case. Another set of problems is that people may experience chronic homelessness, languishing in the shelter for years rather than being housed. This interferes with autonomy and the ability to flourish. The safety net thereby binds and restricts. Lastly, it's a controversial fact that shelters make money from homelessness. It's controversial, but it's also a fact. Shelters have a financial incentive to allow people to stay homeless in order to continue receiving funding from the city government. These flaws, however, should not cause us to ignore the need for shelter, the need that shelters were meant to protect. Every person needs a dwelling to take care of themselves. Fundamentally, it's about housing, not Shelter. If the analogy between shelter and medical care holds, then we see that in order to fix the problem, it's not that we only need help in case of emergency, but we need housing as a human right and we need universal health care for all.